What is up, everyone? I am the Evergeek, and welcome back to a video about D&D Storytime shenanigans. Fuck. It's 10 seconds, I don't care. Anyway, let's just get straight into this. First thing I'm going to go on to talk about for this is when the party decided to invent a new cuisine in my world that is very, very much just basic, a British staple at this point, which is fish and chips. The party made a fish and chip shop. Now, in order to understand why this happened, you've kind of got to, let's just get the party up. So, this was essentially when the party only had Percy, Kygro, Owl, and Glenn, and I think Carrie. I think Carrie was around at this point. I believe she was. So there was no Job, there was no Poco, and there was no Keldor. Now, the details on this may be a little bit foggy. I may not be able to remember exactly what happened because the campaign ended about a year and a half ago, something like that, maybe. Possibly almost 2 years ago. And this happened very much near the beginning of that campaign. So this happened maybe like 3 years ago. So my details may be a little bit shaky. They may be foggy. If any of my players are watching this and I get something wrong, feel free to say that in the comments. Now, what happened here is Percy decided he was going to go looking around the main city for a fish and chip shop. He wanted fish and chips, whereas I had made it a point that the fish and chips, they'd never... Deep frying things was not frequently done. Deep frying things was not something that was done in this country. It's not it wasn't a cooking practice that was usually done, you know? Specifically, like putting things like putting fish in back. This was not a thing, okay? I made it a point that fish and chips was not a fucking thing in my world at this point, at least in this country. So Percy decided, oh, I'm gonna invent it. Fuck it, why not? So he went out, he bought a big pot, and then each of the players in the party chipped in to create this fish and chip shop. They bought a fucking house. They bought a house and converted it into a fish and chip shop. They bought this pot. I believe Kygro used the spell oil or something, and he said, "Oh, can I use oil on it?" Which would usually coat like a wide area in oil, but because let's be real, if a player wants to do something fun with a spell, you fucking let them. Let's be real. Don't be like, oh no, no, you can't use that spell here because it's actually an area of effect and it creates the. No, it creates oil. It was a case of, you want to create oil? Yeah, cool. He creates oil in the pot for the sake of deep frying. Okay, that's what happened. Then there was then they used the spell. They used a spell to create fire to start heating this pot. Then I believe Carrie, Glenn, and Owl all went about collecting ingredients. So I believe Glenn went fishing to get as many fish as possible. Noticed something on a character. So Glenn went fishing to find fish, as you do. I don't know. I don't think I need to. I was going to try and say more, but there isn't really anything else to say. He went fishing. They needed fish for fish and chips. He went fishing. Carrie and Owl, I believe, I can't remember what Carrie did. it has been somewhere near 3 years now. So I can't remember exactly what Carrie did. I can't remember if she went to assist Owl in terms of collecting the potatoes or if she helped Glenn. It feels more likely that she helped Glenn. Owl, on the other hand, went to purchase a load of potatoes, I believe, and also went on a massive advertising run around the city because of his monk speed and his fucking other features and things he got. He had, when in a city, he had a running speed of 90 feet. I believe it was 120 feet. I think at that point in the campaign it might have actually just been 90 feet, but he had a running speed of 90 feet when he was in a city. I can't remember everything that went into that. I just remember it was partially because of his monk abilities, and fuck monks, Jesus Christ. People who say monks are weak have never had to deal with... they've never had to deal with Owl. Jesus Christ. Because I hear people say monks are weak, and I don't agree in the slightest. But yeah. So Owl went on a massive advertising run. So what they did is they cut up the potatoes into chips, fried them, boiled them. It's the weirdest fucking thing. It's because I had this whole thing planned out that they were about to do. They were gonna go and carry on with the story and do all of this, but no. This making a fish and chip shop lasted the entire session. It lasted half of the next session as well, I remember correctly. And so it basically gave them a passive income that they would have a friend running that fish and chip shop while they were gone. So it gave all of these people a passive income, and they pretty much weaseled their way into getting a shit ton of fucking money because, as I stated, fish and chips wasn't a thing in my world at this point. So this was a really randomly rare food. It's fish and chips. It's nothing special, but in that world, no one had seen it, or at least in that country, no one had fucking seen it. It was a weird, rare dish, so they could charge whatever the fuck they wanted. And I know that sounds weird, because it's fish and chips, but I don't know. I'm gonna be real here. I was lost on what the fuck to do. Because I don't know. Because when you start a D&D campaign, you think, oh yeah, everyone's going to go on this really cool adventure. They're going to get into some weird shenanigans here and there. But yeah, it's going to be cool. You don't think and you don't prepare for, my party are going to start a fish and chip business. That's not something that enters your head. Yeah. So this was interesting to have to deal with. So if any DMs out there are watching this, have some kind of, trying to think of the right wording, have some kind of a contingency, a plan, just some sort of a plan that to go about if they decide to create something like a business, because I was almost ready to put taxes and shit in this game, and I just thought, no, I really cannot be fucking bothered with that. So I didn't, because I couldn't be arsed. It was that is genuinely just the reason I could not be arsed with having the tax man come, and I think I tried that at one point, but I don't know if I did or not. But this is a warning to any DMs. No matter what you plan, no matter how much you think you've got prepared, you don't. You know nothing. You have no idea the shit that they will do, because this was not the first time the players completely threw me for a loop, and it was not the last, and it was not even the worst one, because the worst one led to a player being stranded in a completely different country from the rest of the party. That was the worst time for me, because that was a time I legitimately had to take a 10-minute break mid-session and try to figure out what the fuck I was doing, because I genuinely was completely lost. And I might make that my next video, because that was something. I understand, I know I could definitely do with editing these videos, because this has probably been terrible, but money's a thing, and I'm not gonna do that. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more content. I will be making more storytime videos, and I'm hoping I get better at my speaking than I currently am, because this was terrible. But this is mostly just for me to look back at my DMing skills and see what I could do in the future, and what I could do better in the future, and what I did wrong. So I will be addressing things I did do wrong in some of these story times. I will be having moments in them where I pretty much go over, this happened, this was my fault as a DM, I think this is something that could have worked better if I'd have done this way. So people could look at it as a idea of looking at what happens in your campaigns, how to not do it, because there's a lot of things I did wrong, and there's a lot of things I think I would do differently now, because I've got a lot more experience. I say a lot more experience, I've got a few more years experience by now. And I'm going to say, the player, I'm gonna say thank fuck that the player who had Owl and Paco, thank fuck he was in my group, because he is a lot more of a rules lawyer than I am, because I always love to just play a little bit fast and loose, and he as a player helped keep me a little bit grounded in terms of what I allow as a DM, and in turn helped me realise some of the rules that I'd probably not paid as much attention to. So that was good. So the next story time, I think I will probably go over the time I introduced a broken magic item into the world that completely ruined a really fucking badass combat encounter I'd planned out. And it was ruined, but it basically removed the combat encounter entirely because I introduced a broken magic item. Yeah, that's going to be it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.